When it comes to budgeting and money management, it is all about the mindset, taking the accountability for yourself, and really spending the time and effort to get to know your budget, know the savings plan, the emergency plan. So we've concluded our first series of videos, which I'm going to include in this one. So there is a compilation in an entire series. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it and enjoy the content. So the first part of this series, we're going to start with creating a personal budget and really deep dive into what it means to create a personal budget and how this really can affect yourself and how you can affect your finances for years to come. First one is understanding your income. Now, when it comes to income, guys, it is the single biggest tool that you are going to have. So whether it is the paycheck that you're bringing home, the side hustle that you're using, whether it is alimony, if it's child support, regardless of where the income, this is where passive income is also the generation and why a lot of people really do focus on the passive income. You have to make sure that you can track this, especially if it is variable income. So depending on the field of study or where your career path is leading, if you're looking at, having a set salaried position where every week, every 2 weeks, you get an exact same amount of income, or if you're consistent with commissions, if you're sales-based orientated, if you're in the service industry, if you're, a bartender, if you're a server, your income can vary greatly depending how busy you are. And this can be a really big hurdle for a lot of people trying to manage a budget, which this means when it comes to the budget is really looking at it more in a 2-week basis versus it being if you get paid once a month, it might be something that you re-examine on a monthly basis. Now, second part we look at is fixed versus variable expenses, guys. Now, the fixed expenses, these are the things in the budget that are going to remain the same and will always be the same. This could be your car payment. This could be your credit card payments. This could also be your mortgage payment, your rent payment, anything that is going to be pretty much fixed within your life, month to month to month. For instance, for me, we pay our Verizon bill. Our Verizon bill is around $120. We pay our Xfinity internet bill. It is $107 a month. Those are fixed expenses, and those have actually been fixed expenses for multiple years. Now, some of the variable expenses, when you look at the electricity, when you look at consumers' energy and the gas, when you look at the water bill, these are things that are going to be variable expenses. And these are also going to be seasonal expenses, meaning that during the summer, the water bill is a lot higher because we're watering gardens, things of that nature. Also the grass. When you look at the electric bill in the summer, we're running the air conditioning a lot more. This means that you're going to have a much higher bill during those summer months, and you really have to know the variable expenses. Now, a lot of these you can control and you can adjust, and that is one thing we want to look at, guys. When it comes to variable expenses, even when it comes to some of the fixed expenses, you have the power to adjust and change the expenses that you do pay. Now, what I mean by that is if you have an auto loan, you could possibly look at refinance. You could look at a lower rate. You could look at a lower term. Same with mortgages, same with a lot of the fixed expenses. There are some things that are non-negotiable that are just going to be kind of the price of what it is. When you look at products and services, you might have the exact same bill month after month. Now, you do have to strategize for managing both of these debts. Now, again, the variable expenses are ones that you can control, especially when it comes to really the want category. If it's going out to eat, if it is the dining bill, the food expenses, vehicle expenses, things of that nature, you can kind of control on a month to month or even a week to week basis. But overall, these are changes or expenses that are going to change within that personal budget. Now, looking at essential and non-essential spending, this is another big point, guys. When you look at the necessities, this is really breaking it into the needs and the wants category versus the discretionary spending. This, of course, can have a huge impact on your budget, depending not only what you buy, but also the manner that you purchase it in. So what I'm saying by that, essentially, you need a car. So, okay, you need a car. Does that mean you buy a used car that is a $20,000 price tag? Do you buy a new car that is a $40,000 price tag? Do you go extreme and buy a new car that is a $70,000 price tag? There is a entirely different level of expenses, especially when it comes to the discretionary items, on exactly what your budget is going to allow. Because essentially that could mean you have a $300 car payment, a $500 car payment, or a $700 car payment, which again can be super detrimental when you come to the personal budget. Now, with this, there are a lot of strategies for really reducing those non-essential spending. This can be looking for deals. This can be coupon shopping. This can be anything that you can do to reduce the spending that you have. Now, remember, guys, when we looked at the income at the beginning of this video, when you look at the essential and non-essential spending, you have to see places that you can cut, because when you get into the budget, the bottom line number of what you have left is what you have for the debt repayment. That's what you have for the investment strategies, which we're going to break down in future videos. Now, budgeting for daily living, this is always one that a lot of people do not really focus on. Allocate funds for groceries, for transportation, for utilities. Some people like to do it more on a regular basis, every week, every 2 weeks. Again, some people do it every month, depending on how you're budgeting and how your income really does come in. Now, tips for optimizing really the daily living expenses, guys. You have to see where you can cut. For instance, for me, I was actually getting Dunkin' Donuts quite a few times, 2 or 3 times a week. I have cut that down to 1 time a week, which means instead of spending roughly $30, $30+ every single week, I reduced it by essentially to $10, only doing it once a week. So that gives me $20 extra every single week. That gives me $80 every single month, which means now that frees up $80. I know I'm not getting my Dunkin' Donuts, but that does free up $80 every single month that I have the ability to utilize in debt repayment or to invest in different places. Next one we look at, guys, is the realistic goal. The budget will never work. And I repeat, guys, this budget and no budget strategy will work at any time if you are not realistic with the budget. If you're saying, okay, well, I make $3,000 a month, I want to save $2,000. The $1,000 living expense, maybe if you're at home with no bills, could be possible. But for a majority of people, you have to put not only realistic goals, but you also have to put short-term and long-term objectives on how you're going to reach it. Now, if it has taken you 3 years to accumulate credit card debt, it doesn't mean you're going to pay it off in the next 30 days, unless, of course, you come into a large lump sum of money. But that means 3 years to accumulate the debt. You could probably speed it up, maybe 12 months, you're going to pay off the debt. But again, be realistic when you base out the budget and what you want to do. Now, also with the goals in setting this budget, guys, you want to set aside money for expenses that you kind of see in the future, kind of like what we see with the emergency fund. But this is going to be set aside, again, if you're at a point, let's say you pay off your car payment was $300 a month, you're reallocating some of that money. You could even put some of that money into a high yield savings account, let's say $100 or $200 a month, because that was kind of built into the budget. Then you are going to have a pretty hefty down payment when you do need a new car, because you know it is going to come sooner or later. Emergency funds allocation. This is another one, guys. The emergency savings has to be built up. We always follow the advice of Dave Ramsey. Save that first $1,000 and then you go into the hardcore heavy debt repayment fund, guys. Now, the emergency fund, of course, the legitimate or the real emergency fund is 3 to 6 months of expenses. But you'll quickly realize when we look at that income allocation, when you're eliminating the debt and the debt has been eliminated, all of a sudden you have a lot of money to save, you have a lot of money to invest, you have a lot of money to allocate into a lot of different buckets. With that being said, guys, you have to have a debt repayment strategy, whether it is going in with the debt snowball method, if it is going in with the debt avalanche method. You need to pay down the debt and you need to pay it down as fast as possible. Just think of it kind of as a strategy that I use as a game. The more you level up, the more you get, the more that you can push towards that debt. Means that you're going to be paying less interest in the future months for that debt as you continue to really pay it down and pay it off. Once it's eliminated, then the next step of the game or the next level of the game remains in not accumulating and not getting that new debt back into your life. Once it's eliminated, guys, you want it to be wiped out and you want it to be wiped out for good. Next part we look at is budgeting for the irregular expenses. That is right, guys. This is why we do the emergency fund. When you look at car repairs, when you look at something that is out of the ordinary, if you're a homeowner, you might have a furnace, you might have a roof, you might have windows, you might have an air conditioner. This is really building something into the budget, whether it is $50 a month, $100 a month, regardless of what it is. There is going to come a point in time, if it's a year, 5 years, 10 years down the road, there will be a point in time where you have some unexpected larger expenses that you're going to have it in the budget. You're already going to have money set aside. So when that does occur, and again, it will occur, it always does. But when something does happen, it is already done for. You already have the money to pay for it. You're not running right back to credit cards and accumulating new debt because you already have the money paid for. Number 9, guys, adjusting the budget over time. You really do need to do the budget at least bare minimum, guys, on a monthly basis. So, looking through your financial statements, you get your bank statement, you get your credit card statement, making sure and understanding the progression that you're making for paying those off and adjusting when it is needed. Again, with some of those expenses that are not set, that kind of are variable, that change, are seasonal, things of that nature, you have to make sure that you're allocating and you're budgeting for those circumstances because, again, things are going to happen. Regular checking expenses against your budget, seeing if you're on par. So if you're paying $100 a month, let's say for your gas bill, all of a sudden it's $280. What changed with it? Where did the usage come from? How are you going to allocate that extra $180 out of that budget? Where is the money going to really come from? And also being able to recognize spending patterns. So when you're in there and making adjustments to the pattern that you've actually made, and a lot of the budgeting and a lot of the strategies that we utilize are really the subconscious and the ability to have the mindset of I am a saver, I am an investor. It really flips the script. Honestly, there was a point in my life where I didn't have any money. We were living paycheck to paycheck. We were accumulating some credit card debt. And there was a point in my life where I didn't want to live like that anymore. And that is where the point a lot of people have to get to where you look at your budget, you look at your credit card payments, you look at the amount calculated out, even how much you pay on a monthly basis in interest, because it is absolutely crazy to see when you're getting a paycheck, let's say again, $3,000 a month, $500 of that is going straight into interest in all different aspects. If not more, it is kind of crazy to see you're working to pay interest to these financial institutions. So, right, guys, again, this is the first series, or this is the first video of this video series, and I'll catch you in the next video. When it comes to an emergency fund, do you really need one? The true answer is absolutely. So with life's unexpected events, there's gonna be a point where you're gonna have an emergency expense. Whether you're a homeowner, car repairs, an emergency is defined as something that is out of the ordinary and that is unexpected. Today's video, we're gonna be starting into part 2 of the video series, breaking down emergency fund planning and really what does it mean. So breaking it down, first part we're gonna do, guys, is assessing your monthly expenses. If you went over part 1 and you've actually built the budget, you have everything kind of slated and everything queued up, you know exactly where your monthly expenses sit. Now this includes rent, mortgages, utilities, groceries, insurance, loan payments, also a lot of the unexpected expenses that are going to be covered with the emergency fund. This is planning for something to happen. Now when you look at your two types of expenses, the fixed and the variable expenses, you're going to have to kind of forecast or take into account what these are as well. Part 2, guys, calculating 3 to 6 months of your expenses. This is a true emergency fund. So if you're at this point, you've also done the debt consolidation and elimination. So when you get to calculating 3 to 6 months of living expenses, that means the debt is gone from your life. Congratulations, you are completely debt free. But breaking out the 3 to 6 months, this is going to give you a fallback of the emergency fund. And this is really the true target when it comes to an honest, tried and true emergency fund. This means you're going to be able to cover the mortgage, the car payments, all of the insurance, all of your regular expenses for several months if something does happen. This can include being injured at a job, job loss, anything that you need to cover that. Now, number 3, guys, defining what is a need and what is a want. For a majority of individuals, this is incredibly difficult to draw a fine line of what it is. Now, of course, a need is something that you need to live. Now, that includes a house, you need transportation, especially if you are commuting to your job. You need food, you need water, you need lights, you need heat. Doesn't mean a lot of other things that really do fall into the want category where you need clothing. Now, again, this is where a lot of people kind of allocate different funds, but this is also where the lines can get blurred. Where do you need a shirt that's $10 or do you need a shirt that is $80? Fundamentally doing the exact same thing. And this is where you have to take accountability of your budget and exactly how you're budgeting for the needs that you have within your life. Number 4, guys, identifying potential emergency situations. This is very important, guys. When the financial strain comes from job loss, medical emergencies, home repairs, vehicle repairs, you really need to look and make sure that your emergency fund is able to cover these situations. And also, once you do get to the point of using the money that is in this emergency fund, your priority comes right back to replenishing that emergency fund and making sure that you're really stocked up and have that 3 to 6 months of savings. Now, again, a lot of people do like to be a little bit more conservative and save 6 months of savings. However, a majority of people are really sitting on the 3 months. And then a lot of debate kind of goes around about how much having too much cash is non-essential or really not required in an emergency fund, which we're going to look at in just a minute. Now, looking at the starting small and consistent, this is the way that you build up this emergency fund, guys. When you look at it, saving 3 to 6 months can be very overwhelming. This is the point when you want to get the consistency in line. That might be putting away $20 a paycheck, putting away $50 a month. Regardless of what it is, guys, you are taking your first step to building up that emergency fund. Once you have it in place, that is it. It is there. It is built. You know exactly what it's earmarked for. And I also advise putting it into a place that you don't have readily access to it. So instance, if you have a checking and a savings account at an institution, if you put it in your savings account at that institution, it's very easy just to move over the money to have instant access to it when it comes to overdraft protection for a checking account or needing extra money in there. Now, number 6, guys, we get into the high interest savings accounts. This is something for a majority of time did not really exist. But now when you're looking at a full-fledged house, if you're a homeowner, 3 to 6 months of expenses can be thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars, depending where you are. Putting that into a high interest savings account, such as the one offered by M1, I have a link right down below, can yield you 5% on your emergency fund over time, which means if you do need to utilize that emergency fund, you'll have in stockpiled some of the savings, some of the yield that you're getting out of those high interest savings accounts, which is going to essentially give you more money to spend in the long time. Number 7, guys, automate your savings. This is super expensive. We always say pay yourself first. Setting up automatic transfers to the emergency fund every month. And again, looking at your budget, what can you really afford? If it is, again, $20, $50 per month, the automation ensures both the consistency and minimizes the chance that you are going to forget to put that money aside and the emergency fund essentially is never going to get built. Now, number 8, reviewing and adjusting. This is a huge part, guys. When you need to reassess your living expenses, for instance, right now, if you're currently in an apartment, and then you go into a house, your living expenses have changed dramatically, especially if you're in an apartment where they're covering water, where they're covering heat, where they're covering some utilities. And then you're looking at building it or really paying everything yourself. Now, this also is tried and true, guys, when it comes to the budget. When your job situation changes, your financial situation changes, this is a time to really go through and fine tune the budget that you have. Make sure any of the changes that you need to adjust, including the income. When you get a raise, when you move to another position, when you get a promotion, your income is going to change dramatically, which means there are going to be some adjustments to the budget. That could be putting more towards your 401k, paying down debt faster. How are you going to allocate the new funds that you've actually gotten from getting a promotion or a new job? Number 9, guys, avoid using the funds for non-emergencies. This is one of the absolute easiest traps to fall in, is when you look at what really constitute as an emergency, it is a larger unexpected expense. Avoid dipping in the fund for non-essential things. For instance, if you're a little bit short because you overspent in your budget and you have to pay for, let's say, your water bill, or you have to pay for something out of or that's kind of the ordinary, but because of your poor planning, you have to dip into that emergency fund. That is not what it's for, guys. That is not the emergency fund's purpose. And you're going to find if you start dipping into it for some non-essential things, just because of poor budgeting habits or poor spending habits, you're going to start doing it more and more. And then eventually that emergency fund is going to be completely eliminated because you've already gotten into the regular ability to go in there and pull money out of there. And number 10, guys, replenishing after the withdrawals. This is another one, guys, that is super, super expensive. For instance, let's say I have 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund set aside and my hot water heater goes out at the house or the furnace goes out. Furnaces run about $7,000 to $10,000. So I take my 3 to 6 months of expenses. I cover that $10,000 expense. Then I go right back into the replenishment as soon as possible based on my emergency fund and how much I do need in there, keeping that 3 to 6 months. Now, this, of course, is going to be a little bit different, again, depending on the situation that you find yourself in, depending on the expenses that you do have. If you have a home, if you have one car, if you have 2 cars, you can add up expenses pretty quick, especially if you have 1 income or 2 incomes. But this, you really have to take, again, accountability to your emergency fund and knowing exactly what is in there and how much you do need to really cover those 3 to 6 months of expenses. Now with this, guys, again, the final point to this that I cannot stress enough is 3 to 6 months when you're running out your budget, when you're doing your budget, take the time, build the budget, make sure you know exactly where you're spending, where the money's going. What does 3 to 6 months really look like? Be completely honest with yourself, guys. Most of the financial scenarios and situations do not work if you are not honest with yourself when it comes to building out that emergency fund. That'll do it for the video, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video. If you ever considered embracing minimalist, really getting around, removing all the clutter to save some money, being frugal in a lot of different aspects, then this video is for you. We're continuing with our series with the third video this time, and it is going to be our frugal living strategies, really breaking it down and how it can affect your budget and save money overall as we continue our budgeting and our financing breakdown. Number one, guys, we get into tracking your expenses and creating a budget. This is probably one of the biggest parts and biggest areas that you really need to focus on. When you look at a budget, you have to put the time and effort forward, making sure you're listing out your 50, 30, 20 if that's what you're utilizing for a budgeting strategy, or if you're going in with the zero-based budgeting, if you're looking at the debt avalanche, if you're looking at the debt snowball. There's a lot of different ways to approach the budget, looking at discretionary spending, and really looking at the frugal living plan. And what I mean by that, guys, is cutting out all of your non-essentials, which means when you look at that need category, when you look at that want category, when you look at minimalist, when you look at frugal living, you're cutting out a majority, if not all of those wants to really focus down and track your expenses. Now, prioritizing the needs over wants are, again, the really big thing. When it comes to being frugal, you are very tight with every single penny, meaning when it comes to expenditures like getting a coffee out to eat, there's a much cheaper method that you can do that, and making sure that you're doing this frugal living plan will bring it to light. Now, embracing the minimalist. Now, this is adopting a minimalist lifestyle, decluttering your area. That means getting rid of a majority of your stuff and focusing on the essentials. This can ring very true for a lot of different people. If you focus on the essentials, you'll realize you might not have 30 things to focus on, but there might only be 5 things that are incredibly important to you that you can actually spend time. This not only reduces spending overall when it comes to the budget, but it also creates a much simpler and a very much and more intentional life for you to live, guys. When you don't have all of the noise, when you don't have all of the distractions that we find in our day-to-day, you can actually focus on some very strong things. Now, staying along the same vein, guys, cooking at home, preparing meals instead of eating out. This, again, is a very frugal way to save money. If you look, a regular lunch runs about $12 to $15 where we are right now. But if you're bringing a sandwich yourself, you can cut it down to about $1, $1.50, depending what you're bringing, especially if you're buying things in bulk, if you're utilizing memberships, if you're utilizing coupons to buy things. Not only does it allow you to save an incredible amount of money, but it also lets you tailor yourself to healthier eating habits, which of course, you're saving money and you're eating healthier, guys. It is a win-win situation when you are cooking at home. Number 6, we get into shop smart. Looking for sales, looking for coupons, comparing prices before making a purchase. This should be something that not just frugal people are really focused on, but this should be everyone, guys. Buying generic brands over expensive thrift store brands. When it comes to clothing, when it comes to household items, there are some things that if you spend a little bit more for, you're actually going to get a lot better quality. But there are a lot of things that are more generic where the quality is almost on par, yet the savings can be 10, 20, 30% cheaper when you're just buying a generic brand. Now, we do see this a lot when it comes to like Sam's Club and Walmart, when it comes to BJ's, when it comes to the wholesale shops, because they have their own brand that is very similar to the name brand, but it is at a much discounted cost. Next one we look at, guys, is the energy conservation. That is right. It is the old school methodology of saving on utility bills, being very mindful of the energy consumption that you do have, turning off the lights, turning off appliances when they're not in use, and exploring energy efficient options, even looking at solar, looking at wind, looking at any ways that you can save money over time. That is going to be an extension. If you have an initial output of, let's say, solar panels to the house, and it's going to provide energy for the next 30 years, they will pay for themselves pretty quickly, which I know for the frugal mindset, if you didn't have an energy bill, or even if you had the energy company paying you back for the energy that you're producing, would be absolutely amazing. Now, staying with, again, the frugal living, DIY projects, embracing the DIY or the do-it-yourself projects. when it comes to home maintenance, when it comes to repair, when it comes to crafting, there are a lot of people that will pay an incredible amount of money for things that are built or created themselves, being very crafty. This can reduce your expenses significantly on products and services that you might find because you can actually have the ability to do it yourself. When you look at, again, maintenance and you look at repairs to a home, the price tag on those are incredibly high. But when you look at places like Lowe's, you look at Home Depot, they do offer the DIY projects pretty much for free. They do, and they teach a lot of educational courses where you can go and learn to do it yourself. And they will actually be trained by professionals to do the DIY projects, cutting the cost in the materials down significantly when it comes to actually doing it yourself. Negotiating and seeking discounts. This again is another huge one, guys. When it comes to services, you can always inquire about discounts. You can always inquire about coupons, inquire about rebates. This applies everything from insurance premiums to cable bills to internet bills to phone bills to pretty much anything that you want to look at, guys. Even if you're getting car repairs, if you're getting an oil change, there are a lot of people and a lot of competition in the marketplace, meaning that you could possibly take your car to a similar place or a another dealership that is going to offer you the exact same product or service that you're looking for at a cheaper rate than what you were quoted before. Focusing on the quality over the quantity. Now, this is one of the rules. Investing in high quality items that have a higher upfront cost, but have a much long-term value. Now, this, of course, goes back to one of the things when they talk about what do the wealthy spend their money on and how do they actually make it really financial worth it, is looking for quantity, or excuse me, looking for the quality over the quantity. So if you're buying a shirt that is essentially going to last for 5 years versus buying 5 shirts that are going to last for a year each, you can get a much better quality item for a discounted price, or for a much cheaper price over the long term. This is why a lot of people that are wealthy, they will spend more money on appliances. They will spend more money on different things in their life really to upgrade, because they know it is going to be a lot cheaper in the long run without having to replace or repair the products that you have. Buying the cheap products often have a lot more repair that is required on those. Now, limiting subscriptions. This is one of my absolute biggest pet peeves, guys. They have said that we spend roughly $210 per individual, so per American, on subscription services per month. To me, frugal living, minimalist, that is absolute insanity that you're paying $200. When it comes to subscriptions, we're talking about whether it is the wholesale services. So when you look at BJ's, when you look at Sam's Clubs, when you look at Costco's, when you look at Amazon, when you look at Netflix, when you look at, it goes on and on, guys. The Hulu, the Peacock, the Max, there are so many subscriptions. But then you kick in gym subscriptions, you kick in pretty much everything that you find nowadays, guys, has some sort of subscription or some sort of annual fee. Even here, my virus software protection has a fee. When I look at Canva, it has a fee. I use Adobe. Adobe has a fee. Everything are these subscription services, which again equate to well over $200 on average for persons and people that do have these subscription services. And the second one, guys, or the very last one, embracing the secondhand shops or the thrift stores. If you are truly a frugal mindset, this is one of the biggest, guys. Thrift stores, consignment shops, online platforms, secondhand items, you can get it at about 50, 60, 70% or more of a discount. Even looking at damaged products, we actually have a refrigerator that came from Lowe's. Sticker price was $3,000. Guess what? There's a dent in the bottom door, $1,700 off. That is right, guys. We got over a 50% discount on a refrigerator because it had a nick on the bottom of the refrigerator. So they damaged it and we got it. It's been running for almost 10 years now with absolutely no problems, which is kind of crazy to see that they offer that much of a discount on appliances themselves. So, all right, guys, so that'll do it for our frugal living. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and I'll catch you in the next video. Like most Americans, we plan for everything, but do you have a plan to repay the debt that you've borrowed? So as we continue our journey, this is episode 4 in our conjunction with budgeting and the financial freedom. We're going to be breaking down the debt repayment plan in 10 detailed points of it. And number 1, starting out listing out all of your debts. This puts everything on the table, guys. This has to include your credit cards, your loans, your student loans, your mortgage, your auto loan, anything that you owe, and also the interest rates and the monthly minimum payments. So you do have a little bit of homework to do on this one, but this is it, guys. This is where, if it's you and your spouse, put everything on the table. All the cards are shown. You know exactly to the penny exactly how much debt you have. You also know where those monthly minimum payments are at. Now, number 2, prioritizing the high interest debts. This utilizes the debt avalanche method. So what this actually focuses on is if you're taking all of your debts, and let's say theoretically there are 5 of them, you're going to list it from the absolute highest interest rate card that you have, and you are going to prioritize them down to the lowest interest rate. Every single penny that you can have going through the frugal mindset that we did is going to go towards that highest interest rate, meaning that you are going to knock that out the fastest, saving you the most money. Now, mathematically, this way does work over the debt snowball. Debt snowball actually looks at the lowest balances first instead of looking at the highest interest rates first, which we do in that avalanche method. Third part is creating your repayment budget. You need to know, again, allocating how much money you're going to pay off to this debt, whether it be a weekly goal, a bi-weekly, a monthly goal. You need to allocate a certain amount that you're going to put towards the debt. Now, we always say to repay or pay yourself first, guys. This is where the repayment can come in. So what's going to happen eventually is if you're putting an extra $100 in what you budget for, and is extra $100 per month on that debt, you're going to have it come right off the top, guys. You want it to go straight to that. Automatic payments, automating your finances will make a huge difference. But with that extra $100, you know it is already guaranteed, and you know that it is already paid. That is not going to be money that you're reliant to really cover all of the monthly expenses and the bills when it comes to the repayment. You really have to focus on this one, guys. And like I've said before, it takes a big accountability piece, knowing the time frame that you're going to pay it off. Because if you're sitting on a card that is $3,000, $5,000, $7,000, you really need a budget to pay this down. If you do not, guys, you're going to find that you're paying interest for an incredible amount of time, and you're going to be paying way more than you wanted to. That is the reason why when you look at a credit card statement and it says you're going to repay this in 5, 7, 10, 21 years, that is the reason, guys. If you stick to that minimum payment, you are going to be really, really stuck pretty much forever. Now, the next one we look at, number 4, guys, is the debt snowball method. Like we kind of touched on just a minute ago, this takes in the psychological effect of having debt. So what it does is you list, again, your smallest debt to your highest debt. You are going to focus every single penny. You are going to focus your debt management or your debt repayment strategy on that lowest debt first, the smallest debt first. Psychologically, when you see that debt eliminated, moving on to number 2, moving on to number 3, this way does, again, the mental gameplay with the debt consolidation and with paying off the debt. It really builds the momentum and it builds the motivation to step it up, see what you can do further. Where can you cut more in your budget to put more towards the debt till that debt is incredibly and eliminated forever, guys. Number 5, negotiate your interest rates. A lot of people don't know you do this, but you absolutely can. If you have had a really good payment history with a lot of institutions, you can negotiate for a lower interest rate on a lot of your cards, especially when it comes to credit cards. Now, this, of course, is going to really accelerate and amplify the debt repayment strategy that you have. Because if you have a card that's at 25%, even if they take it down to 22, 20%, whatever it may be, guys, this is going to make a huge difference when you're cutting months or even years off of the consolidation, which gets us into number 6, guys, the debt consolidation loan. Now, this, for a lot of people, makes a lot of sense, but there is one caveat that we've talked about before with this, is if you're doing the debt consolidation option, you cannot accumulate or get new debt. That is the biggest thing, guys. So if you have, again, that $3,000, $5,000, $7,000 on a credit card, it's 22, 24%. Moving it over to a consolidation loan, that's maybe 9%, 10%. So literally cutting your interest rate in half or greater than half can really accelerate the time that you're paying this off. A lot of people also do balance transfers for credit cards with the 0%, then simply reducing the interest cost to really beef up the payments. But again, with this, it only works, and I cannot stress this enough, guys, the only scenario where the debt consolidation or the balance transfers work is if you have a game plan to pay it off. So if you're moving it over to another card and they have 12 months at 0% interest, you better be darn right that we are going to have a plan that will be eliminated 100% within those 12 months, guys. That you're not going to be carrying more debt and you're not going to be accumulating new debt. Number 7, we get into the cutting unnecessary expense. This could even be for a short term. So when you look at that want category, which essentially makes up roughly 30% of our budget, where can you really cut some of those expenses? Even if it is for a short time that you're going very frugal with everything, you're packing your own lunches, you're not eating out, you're not stopping for coffee in the morning, you're brewing your own. Anything that you can do to, again, really expedite and pay off this debt will make a game-changing difference for the rest of your life. As you come up with a strategy, you have to make sure that you're able to stick to it, even if it is short term. Again, if you're looking, 6, 12, 18 months that you can really cut down your unnecessary expenses, live with a frugal mindset. Again, even if it is temporary, to wipe out that debt, then you can go back to doing what you are. But again, none of this makes a difference, guys. None of this really works if you are accumulating new debt, meaning that you're living outside of your means from the get-go. It will always end up in the red. Now, allocate windfalls to debt is number 8, guys. If you have tax refunds, if you get a bonus, if you get a gift, if you can make any lump sum payment whatsoever to any of your debt, this again is going to catapult the repayment strategy and really pay it off much faster. Number 9, guys, staying organized. Again, one of the absolute biggest things, guys. You have a plan, you have to stick to it. And trust me, that might mean revisiting it every week, putting sticky notes on your computer, putting them on the mirror in your bathroom. Focus on paying this off and getting those balances down. Regularly reviewing the budget and the progression that you're making on these can be a game changer. So again, if you're listing out all 5 of your debts, in 30 days, you can notice, hey, I knocked off $1,200 of this debt. That is a huge motivator, guys. When you say, okay, well, next month, another 1,200, then another 1,200, boom, I have 1 and 2 gone. Now I only have 3 debts left. This is going to really, again, maximize the strategy, guys. Make sure that you're doing it. And number 10, seek professional advice as necessary, guys. This is something to always keep in mind. There are a lot of financial institutions, including a majority of townships. Sometimes it is the counties, sometimes it is the credit union that offer debt counseling, debt relief, debt consolidation. They offer a lot of specific guidance, just like I am a certified financial counselor. I counsel when it comes to debt, which means that I have the ability to really work with some creditors. We've called creditors. I've worked with a lot of different individuals to eliminate debt, to build a repayment strategy, build out a budget, things of that nature. And it's completely free. I cannot stress that enough, guys. The services that a majority of these institutions offer are completely free. We just need people to utilize them more. And the final tip I'm going to leave you with, guys, avoid taking on new debt. Again, when it comes to the debt reduction, when it comes to the debt elimination, none of this works unless you refrain and you stop taking on new debt. That means building out an emergency fund. That means eliminating your debt, continuing to build to the 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund, and not getting into debt again. Guys, that'll do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about eliminating the debt, and I'll catch you in the next video. When you think of something that you've really wanted to do in life, how exactly are you saving for it? In this video, we're going to be breaking down the savings goals and strategies really into 10 points that we can make into effective, actionable items to reach that savings goal. Number 1, clearly defining the goal. It makes a big difference, guys, when you have a specific goal in mind. It is what you're aiming for. Print it out, write it down, make sure it's there. If it is trying to hit that first $1,000 of an emergency fund, if you're looking to pay down your home, if you're looking to vacation, if you're planning for retirement, investing, there has to be a clear and defined goal so you know where the end game is and what you're actually attaining. And when you do get there, it is time for celebration, guys. Now, number 2, breaking these goals into short-term and long-term goals. Now, this can be very specific to what you want to do. For instance, if you have a kid that is going to school at the age of 18, you only have X amount of years before they are going to school, which means it could be a short-term or a long long-term goal. Now, if your dream is to ever go on a Disney vacation, take a trip to Italy, whatever it may be, guys, you can really map out in 3 to 5 years or even 12 months, depending on how much you're looking to save in this goal to really put it away. Now, short-term goals could include vacations, could be looking at new appliances, possibly looking at renovating kitchens, bathrooms, home improvements, things of that nature. Anything that has a bigger price tag should be really earmarked as a short-term goal. Now, you can put money away on a weekly basis, monthly basis, whatever it is, guys. But again, clearly defining that goal and then setting a short-term and a long-term goal will make a big difference. Now, some of the long-term goals could be home ownership, again, paying off or paying down school for a child, and also retirement are some of the major long-term goals that you do have to keep in mind. Number 3, the target amount. This can be incredibly variable, but determining the target amounts of what you need for each goal. Again, we'll use, let's say, a Disney vacation. They estimate $12,000 to $15,000. That is right, guys. Sticker shock right there. So how long is it going to take you to attain that goal? If you need airfare for 4 individuals, a place to stay, plus admission to the park, and eating, overall, it is incredibly expensive, even if you're going for 5 or 7 days to make that happen. However, you can really break it down into manageable goals. So looking at, hey, I want to buy a house in 5 years. I need a down payment for a house. I want to save $20,000. Break it down into a monthly basis. Don't look at it as a mountain that you're climbing to get that $20,000. Break it down into individual steps. Okay, well, in the next 5 years, you need $20,000. What does that equate to every single year? What does that equate to every single month? You could even take it further, breaking it down into a weekly goal or even a daily goal, saying, hey, I need to put $5 away every single day. That is going to earmark and roll up into that 5 year having $20,000 to actually purchase that home. Now, with this, guys, comes the automation. I cannot stress, guys, as a financial advisor, how important automating your finance is when it comes to paying bills, when it comes to contributing to retirement accounts, when it contributes to savings accounts. Automation ensures the consistency of putting the money away, and it really helps you stick to your savings plan. Now, also with the automation is if you automate and pay yourself first, like I highly recommend, with the automated savings contributions, you're only going to have eligibility or only see the take-home income that you're saving. So if you're putting away, again, $50 a paycheck or $50 a month, doesn't make a difference, guys, depending on where your goals are. But overall, once you start saving and start making strides towards that goal, as you get closer and as you start seeing progression within that goal, which is clearly defined, it is going to make a big difference on how much you do save on that paycheck basis. Now, separating an account for each goal. This, again, is very important, guys, especially if you have a few major goals in mind. For a lot of people, it could be, I want to save and have a wedding, and I want to save and get a home, and I want to save for school. There could be a lot of different goals. This is the point where you really have to determine which one is going to be the most logical, which one does make the most sense, and putting very specific targets on how much you want to spend. But then the trick with this, guys, is making sure that you stay within your budget. So if you're planning on having a wedding and you're setting aside, $8,000, $10,000 for a wedding, you need to make that wedding fund, or when you go to get married, fit within that $8,000 to $10,000 budget. That could mean a lot of things like looking at cheaper venues, maybe cutting the menu, a lot of different things to really make that budget work instead of just blowing your budget completely out of the water and spending $15,000 in that cause. Now, reviewing and adjusting goals periodically is number 6, guys. You have to make sure that you're looking at it. If you notice that you're lagging behind, life circumstances changes, priorities might even change over time, where if something does happen that changes your goal, make sure you're reviewing it. Just like we do on a monthly basis with your budget, part of the budgeting aspect should be reviewing and adjusting the goals, especially when it comes to these savings goals. If you're really focused on the debt repayment, savings goals might have to take a pause to really get down and eliminate that debt. Once the debt is gone, all of a sudden you have a lot of more money because of the paycheck, and the paycheck is the power that you have, guys. Now, number 7, cutting unnecessary expenses. We have talked about this. Every single place that you can cut down, whether it's entertainment, whether it's dining out, subscription services, not getting the coffee in the morning, making cheaper lunches. There are so many incredible ways that you can cut down on the monthly expenses. And every dollar that you're saving or not putting out for those expenses and actually saving, you can put that to use. It is really something that you have to get used to, and something that you'll really, again, quickly realize that once you're aiming towards that goal, and if the goal is truly a priority, you will prioritize it higher than a majority of things, such as getting that coffee and spending money, not necessarily on lunches. Now, number 8, guys, utilizing windfalls and bonuses. Again, this goes back to tax refunds. A lot of people use tax refunds for debt repayment, only to go ahead and reborrow the money that they repaid on the credit cards, which is incredibly difficult. But that is the reason why we have that emergency fund. But looking at work bonuses, looking at anything that is above your ordinary income, even if you're doing overtime hours to make sure that you achieve that savings goal, this is the point where you really want to accelerate the goal and accelerate the progression that you have for the goal. This combined with high interest savings accounts, which I always recommend, guys. There are high interest savings accounts out there that are paying 5+% at this point, which means not only are you saving money into an account, but the money that you're growing is building compounding interest that they're actually paying you. A majority of them do pay it on a monthly basis, meaning that, again, if you're saving $5, $8, $10, $15,000, that is going to be a game-changing difference if you have a longer period, let's say 3 to 5 years, in that high interest savings account, because not only are you going to accelerate the growth savings that you have in there, but you're also going to get the dividends on top of the money that you're saving in there. But the number 10, guys, then the final one is the emergency fund has to be the priority. When you look at savings, when you look at investing, when you look at debt repayment, the emergency fund always has to be the priority. Because what is going to happen, guys, is if your savings, something happens that is an emergency, or even something that is not quite an emergency, you're going to be dipping into those accounts where you've been saving money that you're trying to hit that goal from. And you might say to yourself, just this once, just this one time, I need a little bit of money for this, or I can't cover the expense on this, or we had something come up. That is what the emergency fund is, guys. It is the safety net that will prevent you from dipping into your other savings accounts or dipping into a lot of other places where people do, including retirement accounts, 401ks, savings accounts, or just going right back to the credit cards or the unsecured lending, which means that you're borrowing money because you're not supplementing and not managing your income that you're getting well enough. All right, guys, so that'll do it for the savings part of this program. This is episode number 5. Please subscribe to the channel, guys, if you're finding value in this, and I'll catch you in the next video. I know from personal experience that life can be incredibly challenging, especially when it comes to the financial aspect. Today's video, we're going to be looking at financial challenges and some of the solutions that we find within there, guys, starting off with the specific financial challenges that you are facing. This goes into pinpointing exactly the pinch points or the financial challenges that you have, such as high debt. This, of course, can be an absolute killer when it comes to income and the amount that you're actually paying in debt. Insufficient savings. Now, this, again, is one that we see very often. Is most people get to the end of the month, they're either running in the red or they don't have any money to put or really build up that savings. Low income is another one. If your job is really not cutting and paying the bills, either you have to cut the expenses or you got to look at getting a better job and getting a higher payer job, or you could actually see a combination or a multitude of these factors, guys, which are going to really make a difference when it comes to the financial institutions and the challenges that you face. Now, of course, understanding these challenges are super crucial when developing a very targeted solution, which, again, high debt, you can come up with a very strong payment strategy, really cutting out some of those wants or those unnecessary expenses to focus down that high debt. Insufficient savings, the exact same methodology, except instead of paying down that debt, you can actually focus on saving and seeing exactly where you can cut out some of those expenses so you can actually build up that savings a little bit. Now, low income, the exact same, looking at different jobs, looking at opportunities, possibly even getting a second job, a part-time job, a side hustle. Most people, over 50%, I believe it was 54% of Americans, currently have a side income that they are using, which is kind of incredible. Number 2, guys, creating a realistic budget. This is really the accuracy of the budget is the biggest thing, guys. If you're going to spend the time and effort to make a budget, there's no reason that you should absolutely half-ass it for any reason at all. You need very specific numbers when it comes to income, when it comes to expenses. That way you can see where you can possibly get things much cheaper, where you can cut costs, where you can allocate more funds to really cover those needs and the savings, and not focusing as much on the wants. Now, majority of people do the 50-30-20, again, depending on your financial situation. This might not be an option. However, You can break it down with a 50-50, a 50-40, a 50-20, whatever it may be to get to that 100%, even putting a little bit more, a 60, a 70 in that really that need category, if that is the way that you are financially set, or even doing 30% in the needs with a lot more in the savings, the investing, debt repayment phase. Again, the 50-30-20 is a general budgeting rule to go by, but it is not something set in stone. Now, prioritizing high payment or high interest debt, guys, this is where you need a specific plan if this is exactly what you're dealing with. When it comes to high interest debt, you really need to do, and personally, I do the debt avalanche method, which means you list it from your highest interest rate card that you have to your lowest and really focus every single penny that you're allocating to your debt repayment right onto that highest interest first. This is going to give you the most bang for your buck. Now, this one you do have to be super disciplined with, because as you're going through there and you are putting more funds into this debt repayment plan and paying down the debt, you need to make sure that you are not getting new debt. I say this every single video, guys, but you have to make sure that you are not accumulating new debt. Number 4, we look at income streams. Explore opportunities to increase your income. If you look at YouTube, a simple Google search, there are side hustle, freelance works, higher paid jobs. Additional income can really change your financial future, guys. If you're an individual that's, let's say, making $30,000 a year, struggling to make payments, struggling with the budget, if you go to 35, if you go to 40, if you go to 50, even if you pick up a secondary, grocery delivery, if you look at DoorDash, if you look at a lot of the side hustles that are out there, you can make some additional income, and it is the value of the time that you're spending in it to what they're willing to pay you. But a lot of these side hustles can be super profitable based on the time and effort that you put into them and really making them and incorporating them as a part of your life. And number 5, we get into the emergency fund, guys. I cannot prioritize this enough. The emergency fund is the actual financial cushion. When you see unexpected expenses, you're going to be able to cover them without any issues, because you don't want to rely on the credit cards and you don't want to rely on the the borrowing aspect, because that is not what you want to do, guys. You'll just get yourself in more debt and you'll perpetuate the cycle of borrowing and paying back a lot more than you actually borrowed. Because again, if you look $3,000, $5,000, $7,000, if you're borrowing, chances are you're paying $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 in addition to what you already borrowed as the repayment, as the interest runs, which means you're going to be in a worse off situation eventually. It might take a little bit of time to get there, but you will get there. Number 6, guys, looking at your expenses and negotiating your bills. This is something that a lot of people do not realize when it comes to bills, when it comes to utilities, when it comes to insurance, cable, when it comes to mortgage rates, auto loan rates. There is a big competition between companies, guys, that you can make a lot of these things a lot more affordable and saving money while keeping the exact same goods and services. For instance, I had my auto insurance with USAA, a company that I love and I trust. I moved it over to AAA, so literally the same apples to apples coverage with 2 different companies. AAA being based in Michigan, we were able to get a policy with them that saved us about $900 a year. That is game changing, guys. Even though breaking it down on a monthly basis, you know what? That is still $900 a year that I am not shelling out for an identical coverage from different places. Number 7, we get into seeking financial advice. I am a certified financial counselor. I have people that come to me all the time about financial questions. If you have financial questions, guys, drop them in the comments down below and I will definitely answer them for you. But looking at the credit advisors, credit counselors, a lot of these are offered through the cities or the state, possibly even the county, but also a lot of banks and credit unions do offer financial advice and kind of the financial counseling aspect for absolutely free, guys. You can utilize the service as a free service that is offered through a ton of different places. Now, if you are really in dire straits, looking at a lot of things, government assistance is available for a lot of people. Investigate programs that they offer. Again, going through your county, looking at housing assistance, food programs, education grants. There's a lot of government things that people do not know about. We actually used a lot of them in Michigan when it came to the home repair or kind of upgrade programs that were offered through the county, depending on the city you lived in. So if you were within the city of Detroit, you could actually get money from the city that was actually given by the state to fix up your home in Detroit. They're trying, as the Betterment of Detroit program, they were trying to improve the housing situation for individuals that focus and live in Detroit, really in a focused area. The number 9, we get on the financial education piece. This is one, the financial education and the financial literacy, guys, regardless of where you are in life. And I really want to stress this, regardless of where you are in life, you can always spend time and effort to educate yourself financially, getting more financial literate. Understanding financials will empower you to make better decisions in the future and also navigate a lot of the challenges that we see within the financial spectrum, which means, guys, it is free. When you look at YouTube, when you look at the information that you can get, even government information, there are a lot of financial education pieces that are absolutely free to help you budget your money and actually help you make informed decisions about a lot of different things. And number 10, practicing the mindful spending. This is very, very important, guys. Again, when we look back into that want category, for a majority of people, the want category slowly kind of slips into that need category where you might want a new sweater, you might want this, you might want that. There are a lot of things that are just considered luxuries, even though a lot of people do not see it that way. And it really also determines on what level that you're looking at it. Now, when you look at your cell phone, how much did you pay for your cell phone, guys? Did you buy a $400 cell phone? Are you buying an iPhone 15 at $1,500? This is really something where if you're making a phone call, if you're sending a text message, does an iPhone 7 work the same as a 15? Yes. Is the 7 going to be cheaper? Yes. Does it have pretty much the same capabilities of what a cell phone needs to do? Yes. However, people are running and standing in line and on wait lists to get that iPhone 15 when a lot of times they're not paying for it, or they're taking out payment programs, or they're borrowing money for it, or they've just literally went from cell phone to cell phone while they're sitting on a ton of credit card debt. But you know what? When it comes to that want category, they find that phone as a need category, and the justification is really not taking the time and thinking about the process and thinking about what they're spending money on. 2 more points here, guys. Number 11, the debt consolidation method. This again is something that I do not like very much unless it is a tool that is used properly. What I mean by that is taking debt, consolidating into a much lower interest rate, a more affordable payment, but not accumulating new debt. That is the only way that debt consolidation works, guys. For a lot of people, we see them for a debt consolidation. 3 years later, we see them for a debt consolidation. 2 years later, they're back for a debt consolidation. Because guess what? They never budgeted fundamentally. They're spending more money than they're earning, which means we're in this perpetual cycle again of the debt consolidation loans and also the balance transfers. We see the exact same thing. And number 12, guys, the last one in this list is setting goals. This is one of the absolute biggest things, guys. When you look at your debt, if you have $10,000 in debt, do not look at it as the big picture. Look at it as, hey, I can put an extra $100 towards this every single month. In X amount of time, it is going to be gone. When you look at, looking at Mount Olympus, looking at a giant 2,000-pound boulder, it can be broken into pebbles, guys. You can break all of your financial goals into very small, actionable parts. If it means even saying, hey, I need to put $3 away every single day, breaking it down that easy. Or, hey, I need to put away, $50 every single paycheck. You can break those down and celebrate along the way. So when you get to that $10,000 budget, or when you get, a quarter of the way, halfway down, when you can start seeing you making progression within that budget, that is time that you want to celebrate. Doesn't mean it has to be going out and spending more money, guys, but you absolutely want to celebrate the wins when it comes to financial counseling. So again, guys, let me know some of the questions that you do have in the bottom, and I'll catch you in the next video. One of the most difficult financial things that we deal with in our day-to-day lives is the accountability piece. If you go out and you buy something in the morning, if you buy something that you don't need that is in that want category, there is no one there to hold you accountable. Today, we're going to be talking about the financial check-ins over a monthly period. Now, the best part of this, guys, is having an accountability partner. It is whether it is a spouse, a significant other, maybe a child, maybe another individual. I know accountability makes a big difference when it comes to your financial goals and really getting there. Number one, the income and expenses. This is really the review portion, guys. When it comes to talking about finances, I really want you to stress that how important it is to have it as a family event, that it is going to be something that is going to be shared with the entire household. That way they know exactly where you are compared to your expenses, compared to your income, so they know kind of black and white exactly where you are. Now, this also ensures that you align your spending with your budget, making sure that you're doing necessary adjustments with the financial check-ins that, again, you're holding accountable with under other individuals. Now, number two, we look at the budget variance. Now, from a month-to-month basis, there are going to be a lot of things within the budget that can vary. It might be expenses that are more expensive in the winter, some of the costs that accelerate in the summer. There are going to be things that you're going to have to budget for. Now, the monthly budget can be adjusted on a month-to-month basis depending on this. Now, identifying areas that you've either overspent or areas that you underspent, even determining areas that you can improve your spending overall. Again, with that accountability person, when you do this check-in, can really help your budget dramatically, guys. If you realize that, let's say you budgeted for your electricity bill or your heating bill, and it's coming in every single month a little bit higher, it's time to reevaluate that. Maybe you need to bump it up a little bit. Maybe there's a place that you need to adjust. Now, this will also make a difference, guys, if you get a bonus, if you have additional income, if you get a promotion, a raise, anything of that nature, guys. It is really time to look at that budget as well. Number three, we get into the debt repayment process. Again, on a monthly basis, this is going to keep you accountable to how much debt you've actually repaid and how closely you're following the debt repayment plan. Review the balances on the loans, review the balances on the credit cards. Really know your numbers, guys. And again, I cannot stress this enough. If you know your numbers and you know your numbers incredibly well, you know how much you earned in dividends. You know how much you earned in interest. You know how much you paid in interest. You know what the game plan is and how to get out of debt. It's incredibly easy to get into debt. But on the flip side, guys, it is incredibly easy to get out of debt with a plan, with an accountability buddy, with a set in stone way that you're going to do this, guys, can really get that done. Number four, we get into the saving contributions. This is one where we say pay yourself first. Make sure that you're making contributions into that savings account every single month, regardless of your financial situation, $20, $50, $100. You have to be shooting towards financial goals. First of all, being the emergency fund. We stress this every single time, guys. If you do not have that emergency fund, if you haven't started with the savings account, not having that emergency fund means when something happens, you're going back to borrowing, you're going back to credit cards, you're going right back to the same habits that got you into the debt cycle that you've already seen. Now, also saving for retirement, specific purchases, vacations, if you're saving for a down payment for a house, this can also accelerate. And again, accountability buddy, this can really deem how much you can put into savings and where your savings is currently at. Now, looking at number five, guys, it is investment performance. Now, this is actually an interesting one. If you have any investments, if you have a 401k, look at the performance. You have to make sure that whether you're doing it on a monthly, a bi-monthly, an annual basis, you need to see exactly where your investments are and ensure that they are in the exact place that you want them to. For a majority of people, they might put it into like target date funds. Target date funds, however, for a lot of people might not be the best funds to be in, but making sure, guys, that you're maximizing the savings accounts with high yield savings. Make sure you're maximizing the investment accounts with making sure they are in the proper places. For a majority of us that have 401ks, your 401ks can be managed and are managed usually by another company, which it is free to talk to them, free advice. A lot of them offer seminars, offer individual one-on-one sessions, all at a free basis because you are going in and you are investing with different companies. Number six, we get into the emergency fund. Every single month, guys, really confirm the status and how well funded the emergency fund is. If an unexpected expense happens, how are you going to be covered? If by chance there was an expense that happened, if there was something like a car broke down, needed emergency repairs, an emergency medical bill, something of that nature, that you are replenishing that emergency fund. So once you had that $1,000 or that 3 to 6 months, if you've used money from within there for an emergency, again, the classification of emergency is some unexpected expense that is not in the budget, that is not in the portfolio, does not include, that I needed new clothes, that I needed, XYZ. Emergencies, guys, are a true emergency. Now, number seven, we get into the upcoming expenses and events that you might have. birthdays, holidays, planning for the purchases again make a game-changing difference, guys. You have to adjust your budget accordingly when it comes to, let's say, Christmas. Setting aside a specific amount for Christmas can make it incredibly easy. If you're saying I'm setting aside 200, 500, $1,000, whatever it may be, guys, as long as you are budgeting it, sitting down with the accountability partner, making sure that you are saving to have and hit that budget that you want to. That way it's not coming up as an unexpected expense because you knew it was coming and you knew exactly when it was coming. Now, this is also the time to review your financial goals. Where exactly do you want to be and what is your progression, guys? If you're recording this on a monthly basis, it will be absolutely incredible when you look at milestones, when you look at, paying down debt, when it's down 5%, 10%, 20%, 50%. You have to know where your goals are. If you want to take a trip overseas, if you want to go on vacation, if you're going to Disneyland, regardless of what it is, guys, now is the time to review those financial goals, see where you're making progression and see where you can really push the envelope, cut a little bit of cost, and also make more progression in a faster nature. Number 9, we get into the insurance coverage. Make sure every year, guys, your health insurance is covered, your auto insurance is covered, your homeowner's insurance. Make sure that it aligns with your current needs and that you're not underinsured. This can be catastrophe if it comes to a budget, guys, and you have a very large unexpected expense. That is not covered by insurance. That is out-of-pocket money that you're going to have to come up with if you do not have the insurance in place. I know a lot of people do not like to buy insurance, but again, if something happens, and in my life it has, but if something does happen in your life and you have a really large unexpected expense, insurance is there to cover all or some of the cost. You might have to pick up a little like a deductible, but still, if you don't have insurance, you're footing the entire bill all by yourself. Final one, guys, is evaluating your financial habits. This is where it really talks about the mindset. Reflect on your financial habits, looking at areas for improvement. Consider whether the habits or behaviors can be adjusted to better align and hit those financial goals, guys. This is, again, one of the big accountability pieces that we talk about is making sure that your thoughts, your habits, your spending habits align with where you're trying to go. If you're going to give up, a $5 latte every single day to not only cut down your budget or even cut down your expenses, but if that $5 on a daily basis means that you're going to be able to go on that vacation, you're going to have money for birthdays and holidays, you really need to prioritize what's important in life, honestly, with a mindset and a financial mindset at that. All of this can be achieved, guys, going to YouTube. There's books, there's a lot of knowledge, even hitting up your local library where a lot of people go. You can get a ton of resources if you're willing to put the time and the effort for absolutely free from your local places. So guys, that'll do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and I'll catch you in the next video. When it comes to the education of our children, it is one of the absolute biggest misses that we see in America. When it comes to laying the basis, this can actually start much earlier than you think, starting with the budgeting, financials, and kind of the basics of addition, subtraction, money in, money out. These are concepts that even young children can learn and learn incredibly well going into the young adult, even to the mid-adult years. Now, starting with this, guys, in today's video, we're going to be going through budgeting and really teaching children the financial fundamentals, starting with number 1, starting early. Now, a lot of the financial concepts can be learned incredibly early. They even said as early as 4 or 5 years old. Young children can grasp the money concepts that we have. Simple discussions, simple activities. How much money do you make? How much did you spend? What things cost start at an early age. Even when you're going out and you're shopping, let's say for birthday parties, when you're shopping for toys, they need to know that there is a cost associated with it, and you only have X amount of dollars to spend on X amount of products. This is something, again, very early fundamentally that children can learn. Not only that is the saving aspect, guys. When kids start saving at a very young age, it can actually impact their entire life to build savers, to build investors, to build a financial future for your family and really change the life that they could have. Number 2, using real life examples. This is something that is very important. Using real life situations from your daily life, such as planning a family outing, to deciding how you're going to spend the allowance that they earn. Even if you start with an allowance of $1, that is the fundamental, guys, because they will see exactly how far that $1 can take them and the things that it can purchase and the things that it cannot purchase. So again, starting it off early. This is really the time to introduce the income and expenses. Again, when you start getting into the first and second grade, you start doing basic addition and subtraction. For a majority of people, the income and expenses are the exact same. They might have a different name, guys. If you say you have $10 coming in, you're spending $6 on expenses. What do you have left remaining in the budget? That is right. For most of us, it is $4 if we are doing the calculation correct. It is not, I brought in $10, I spent 18. What do we have left? That's right, it is negative. Helping children understand that money comes from various sources as well. When it comes to the income is important, and spending on different needs and wants, and really defining what that need and what that want is at a very younger age, again, can really fundamentally change a child's behaviors. Creating a visual budget. When you're a younger generation, when you're looking at even young adults, a visual budget, actually being able to see it, whether it is charts, whether it is piggy banks that record the coins that are in there, it can represent the income that they have and also the expenses. When they buy something, you can actually have a chart that is going to add when they get money for birthdays, for holidays, whatever it may be, guys. And then when they do spend that money, allowing them to spend that money really makes it tangible and makes it real in the children's state of mind. Now, number 5, setting a savings goal. This again is something that is very, very cool. Now, in the credit union I work in, if a young individual comes in and does a deposit, they actually get toys. They get rewarded with toys, with games, with a lot of different things to, again, help them really understand the concept of saving money and also the delayed gratification of having the money in the bank and not spending every single penny they have. Now, also with this, number 6, we can look at allocating spending categories. When you look at spending, when you look at savings, when you look at giving, you can really teach them, again, the fundamentals of their income and how it is allocated. If you're doing 50, 30, 20, I know that's going to look incredibly different when you have a minor or when you have a young adult. But ultimately, the fundamentals that you teach now as a younger individual is going to, again, take you through the entire adulthood, and they will look back and know exactly how and what to do when they do get their paycheck. Number 7, we look at decision making. This is very important, guys. You have to let them fail. As much as we want to see our kids succeed in every single aspect of life, you have to teach them about decision making, meaning that if I buy something today, chances are you cannot buy that tomorrow if you do not have that money. It's not really the want, spend category that we want to prioritize right here. It is what do you need versus what do you want. And again, the really unrealized loss of if you buy one thing, you're not going to have money for the other thing. Number 8, we look at including allowance and earnings. This is something, guys, again, when you look at age appropriate chores, if they do the chores, they get their allowance, they get their income, their earning, whatever you want to call it. If they do not do their chores, it is the exact same repercussion, guys. They're not going to get the allowance. They're not going to get the earning. They're not going to have the ability to spend. This creates a hands-on experience that reinforces the budgeting, and it also reinforces a work ethic at a very young age. Number 9, encourage tracking. This is, again, something that I do not see when I look at young adults, college kids, even when I look at a majority of grown adults. When I talk about a budget, when we have that conversation, probably about 1 out of every 50 people that I have a conversation with has a budget. And if they do have a budget, a lot of people do not keep up on their budget on a bi-weekly or a monthly basis, meaning that there is no tracking going on to where the money is coming in, what money is going out. Even when I ask a lot of individuals, what is the rate on your credit cards? How much are you making an hour, which should be a pretty easy one? How are you getting paid? How are you allocating your money? These, for a lot of people, seem like really tough questions because it is questions that they have never been asked. And again, if you're starting this fundamentally and foundationally at a very young age, when somebody gets their allowance, let's say you give them $3, you give them $5, whatever it may be, guys, allowing them to spend the money or save the money, it is going to be their decision. Depending, I don't want to force them to do it, but you also want them to encourage and go and make their own decisions. Now, number 10, guys, leading by example. This is one of the big things, guys. If you're sitting down as a family and reviewing your budget every single month, children often learn through observation, especially at a younger age. Modeling financial responsibility and actually taking the time to do it is crucial at this age because, again, This is the basis for the fundamental for the rest of their life. If they're savers, you will find out through a time 10, 20, 30 years that they are investors, that they are savers, that they are a lot more frugal when it comes to their money, and they know the value that it is when they do spend their money. Now, number 11, we talked about the family budget. You have to get children involved, guys. Usually, I mean, I would say early age, probably 12 to 14. This really provides them a broader perspective of financial decision making. It also gives them the ability to see where the money goes. When you have a paycheck, let's say you have one income or you have two incomes in the house, what does that look like? How much are you actually bringing home? Again, when I see a younger generation, they'll get their first paycheck. They don't understand what the taxes are because no one ever explained it to them. They don't understand the investment options because, again, nobody ever explained it to them. I've seen a lot of people that have come through orientation for different jobs with zero financial literacy about what is actually going on in the company, what they do with their paycheck, where it goes, even where it is direct deposited. A lot of places were actually just hooking people up with a prepaid debit card that they're paying for every single month versus getting a bank account versus getting direct deposit, things of that nature. And the last one, guys, is emphasizing the saving for the future. This is one of the big things, guys. When you look at future goals, when you look at education, a car, a senior trip, this is what the long-term planning really comes in. And again, if you set the groundwork fundamentally for having a savings mindset, when there is something important that comes up in life, they are already going to have the ability and they might even have the money there when it is time to purchase a car. The funds might already be there for a good chunk of a down payment. When it comes to paying for school, they might not have to take out as much student loans because, again, fundamentally, they've already been kind of prepping and saving money for that. Or, again, a senior trip, something of that nature that is already entirely paid for. Even if you go to out of state colleges, you can cut down and have a budget that is already built in place, making sure that they have the saving mentality at a very young age. Sorry, guys. So let me know in the comments what you guys think, and I'll catch you in the next video.